This is the flipped lesson plan. Flipped. The concept. Students will watch the lectures at home at their own pace and can communicate with peers and teachers via online discussions. And then they will come back to class and engage in hands-on activities that are associated and related to this concept that is covered in the lecture. The example, 4th grade science. In this case, it is life science, and it's an actual activity or activities that we did with my 4th grade class. So it deals with herbivores, carnivores, omnivores, and decomposers. The standard, life science number 2B, students know producers and consumers, herbivores, carnivores, omnivores, decomposers are related in food chains and food webs and may compete with each other in an ecosystem. This is basically the standard too, that they know what the producers and consumers are, herbivores, carnivores, omnivores, decomposers more specifically, and that they're in a food chain and a food web and connected to each other. Step 1. Students watch the lecture on this particular topic at home and communicate with each other and with the teacher with any sort of questions or comments they might have online. Step 2, students engage in the concept of producers and consumers in the classroom doing 2 hands-on activities. 1, a producer-consumer food web, and 2, a producer-consumer circle of life sheet. The producer-consumer food web, essentially what you need to start out doing for this is we have these fun little animal cards. In this case, this one's a sow bug. The students get these. Ours were already pre-filled out. We've got these questions: I am, I eat, what eats me, and you can have them pre-filled out for the students, or they can fill them out themselves if you want to do that way too. And then you hole punch them, give the students a piece of yarn or a piece of string, they tie it on, put it around their neck, that's their animal. Then you kind of just move the desks around, students all gather in a circle, kind of like that, they don't have to hold hands. One person's the tree and they stand in the center, and the teacher, what he or she will do is call out an animal, and the students, because they have their information on their card, will know if they eat that animal, and if they eat the animal they can raise their hand, and the teacher will bring the string to them, and they will hold a piece of the string and then unwind the string some more, call out another animal, and whoever eats that animal can raise their hand, and the teacher will take the string to them, and it will kind of create this crazy little web by the time it ends. So as far as materials for this, just the pre-made cards, and then a whole bunch of punch holes and some yarn or twine or string to make this a necklace, and some yarn or twine or string to make the web. The producer and consumer circle of life sheet. Basically, our sheet looks a little different than this, but the students get a sheet with animals on their different levels, and what they do is with their little card, their animal that's on here, mine's a sow bug, but I don't think a sow bug's on here, so we'll just choose like the grasshopper. So there's a grasshopper. What they have to do is find out who eats the grasshopper. So right here, this is kind of the cheater sheet because it's got the arrows. On the real sheet, it won't have the arrows, so they'll have to use their knowledge of producers and consumers to know who eats what, and so they'll have to connect the grasshopper to the bird, and then see who eats the bird, the owl eats the bird, so on and so forth, until they make a circle and until they get back to their animal. So it will kind of create circle of life in a way with producers and consumers. Differentiation for students who don't have access to a computer or the internet. There can be time set aside for them either in class during an activity that they can make up later, or during lunch or during recess, and they can come in and use the classroom computer and watch the lecture there, or they can to set aside time with the librarian, they can go into the library and watch the lecture on a computer in the library. For ELL students with non-English speaking parents, you can provide a set of instructions in whatever their native language is. I think I said here like Spanish, French, German, whatever they speak. just provide an instruction sheet, you know, in their language. It's pretty easy to find a translator that works for that, and yeah, so that they can have a firm grasp on what their student needs to do. So as far as, we already talked about materials, as far as discipline, during the activities, the producer-consumer circle of life sheet, that shouldn't cause too many problems or have any discipline issues, at least not very many, because it's independent work and students should be able to do it themselves. Now, the producer-consumer food web can get a little rowdy, kids might get a little crazy and a little loud, and probably just the best way to handle that is if any particular students happen to get too loud or too rowdy or too crazy or whatever, you can, you know, just ask them nicely to sit out, and they will no longer be able to participate if they can't participate respectfully. As far as assessment, the assessment is, the biggest part of the assessment probably takes place in the producer-consumer circle of life sheet, because you can really see, depending on where they do their circle and where they connect it to, if they really understand who eats what, you know, and what animals eat what animals, what order it goes in, producers, consumers, so on and so forth. You can kind of see that during the producer-consumer food web as well. It's a little bit harder because with the teacher passing out the string, you can't really like stop and write down who knows what and who got it right. But you can tell if a student raises their hand and says, I eat that, and you know, well, no, your animal doesn't eat that. You can kind of just make mental notes. And then, again, assessment is best done with the sheet. Alright, well that is the flipped lesson plan.